Welcome to Niagara Amusement Park and Splash World in Grand Island, New York. This might look a little familiar because I did one last fall, but you notice the parking lot looks a little emptier. Way in the distance there, you can see the pieces from what formerly was the Laser Loop at Kennywood Amusement Park in Pittsburgh. And there are still a few rides sitting in the parking lot, but there's a lot of stuff that has been moved in. So let's go into the park and take a look at what's coming up. When you enter, you have this little fountain here, and you can go left or right around the fountain. We're going to go right. You can see the Iron Horse train out in the distance there. This is the station for the Iron Horse train, and that makes a sweep of almost the entire park. So it's a nice long ride. Now, we could go over to the left, and that will take you over to the Western Town section of the park. Hi, Karen. Hi, Steve. In the middle here, you can see in the concourse in the center is their carousel. In front of us is the Kittyland Cafe. Now, interestingly, if you go in there, there's a sign that says Rick's Steakhouse, but it still has Kittyland Cafe on the outside. And the reason it does is because here's Kittyland. Niagara is positioning itself as a true family park with stuff for little kids to do and stuff for older folks to do with their kids. So there's going to be a good family roster of rides in this park. Right here you can see the classic Herschel helicopter ride, and although it doesn't have the hard-to-find propellers on it, it's still in really good shape. And there's a little auto car ride over there. Now over here, this used to be the Blue Goose ride, a very rare ride. I think there are only one or maybe two left in the world, and it used to be in here. But now it's populated by Herschel pony carts. So that'll be up and running soon. Over there used to be a Wacky Worm roller coaster when Apex owned the park before they trashed it. They had a bumper car arena set up there last year. That bumper car arena is going to be moving to the other end of the park, and we'll talk about that when we get there. And in that place is going to be a kiddie coaster. So that should be happening in the next few months. Now over here you can see a couple of interesting buildings. These are left over from the old Charlie Wood days. Charlie Wood was the creator of Storytown, USA in Lake George, New York, and he also for a long time owned this park, which used to be called Fantasy Island. And he populated it with things very similar to The Great Escape, a lot of things for little kids. And we have a wishing well over here and some kiddie rides over on the right and more kiddie rides over here. So lots and lots of kiddie rides here for small fry. There's a beautifully preserved Herschel autocar ride. There's a drop tower, a kiddie drop tower in the background. There's the carousel that we saw when we came in, and over there is the entrance to Western Town. But what we're going to do is we're going to swing around to the right, and we're going to make a counterclockwise sweep of the park. Over here is an arcade that was just about to open when we were there. Fantasy Island was founded in 1961 by Lawrence Grant, and it was originally going to be called Fantasyland, but they didn't want to get sued by Disney, so they changed it to Fantasy Island. And they had it until it entered bankruptcy, and then Charlie Wood stepped in 1982 and bought it, and he ran it until 1989 when he sold it and The Great Escape to the International Broadcasting Corporation, and they owned it for about a decade until Charlie Wood bought it back again. And there you can see the Iron Horse train, and it goes across this huge trestle. It's pretty amazing. And at the end of that trestle is an entrance to the KOA campground that you can see across there. If you stay at the KOA campground there, you can get tickets to the park, and you have your own special entrance that you'll see in a minute. Now, here is the old canoe pond around the Indian Island village there. And they cleaned it up from last year. If you remember in last year's video, it looked pretty bad. Well, they cleaned it all up, so it looks a lot better now. They don't really intend to bring the canoes back. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, and I don't know if they're sure what they're going to do with it yet, but it looks nicer. Here you can see a few picnic pavilions out here, and there's the KOA campground stop right here, and the train does stop there, and you can enter with your ticket, and the operator of the train will scan your ticket, and you're in the park. And that big roller coaster that you see in front of you is the Silver Comet. The Silver Comet was built as an homage to the Crystal Beach Comet, which actually is now located at Charlie Wood's other property, The Great Escape, a phenomenal roller coaster. And Martin DiPietro wanted to have a world-class roller coaster, and the station is designed to look like the original Crystal Beach Comet station from Ontario, Canada. And this coaster is absolutely amazing. It is really intense but not punishing. The most laterals on a coaster that I've ever ridden. It's running really great. The team here has got this running beautifully. So it's worth it to come to this park just to ride that coaster. It's pretty impressive. And as you might notice, there were more rides originally in this area. And the team that's in charge of the park now is working as quickly as they can to bring rides back. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Over on the left, you can see Midway Munchies, and in the distance, the Galaxy of Games, which has lots of various game concessions there. That's the entrance to the Silver Comet, where you saw those people going in. This is another games building, and that's not being used currently. Here's the Flying Scooters ride. Now, I mentioned the name Martin DiPietro in association with the Silver Comet. He bought the park from Charlie Wood, and he owned it until Apex Parks bought the place, and that's a whole other story. And similar to last year, this is currently where the Midway ends. But later on this summer, it's supposed to be open further on down, and let me show you an absolutely amazing addition to this park. You can sort of see it coming into view here. This is the Flying Witch Dark Ride, the legendary one from Rye Playland in New York. And Niagara bought it, and they are reassembling the whole thing from scratch. It's a 3-level dark ride. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I'm really excited to ride this when they get it all back together. Now, that said, will they get it back together this summer? They're shooting for that with their crew. But you can see beyond there, there's Boppers, which will have veggie burgers when they open it later in the summer. And you can see all the construction equipment back here. They have a bunch of rides going in back here for the summer. The reason it's not open is because the rides that they ordered didn't come in time. Supply shortages again. You can see way in the distance there a glimpse of the Galaxy Coaster. They have a really nice Galaxy Coaster out there, and the Ferris wheel and the antique car ride, along with a bunch of other rides that are going to be very surprising for some people. I have been asked not to mention exactly what they were to keep the surprise. There are some that are standard, like a Sea Dragon, but there are a couple others that are going to be a surprise. So they're really cranking as hard as they can. And with all the other rides that are still left to put together in that parking lot, they're going to have a pretty impressive selection of rides for both kids, teens, and adults once this thing is done. So looking forward to next season, especially when everything's operational. But they told me that this season, hopefully in the middle of the summer, they're going to have a lot more working back in that area there. So the future looks bright for Niagara Amusement Park. Now we're coming back around, and we're going to be going through the Western Town area. And there's another view of the canoe pond. And over here on the right is a scrambler. Now, I mentioned Apex Parks. They bought the park from Martin DiPietro in 2016. And there were high hopes that they were going to bring in more capital and, keep improving the park. And for a little while, they did. They sort of brought in a few new rides and they painted things and it was looking really nice. And then for some reason, they basically just abandoned the park. And in 2019, they closed it. And not only closed it, they basically ripped everything out of it and then left it for vandals. But Gene Staples, the guy who saved Indiana Beach and Clementon Park in New Jersey, also stepped in and saved this park. And they had an enormous amount of work to do just to get the place operational. So, so much thanks to what he and his crews have been able to do here. This is definitely a park worth saving. There's the Golden Nugget, which has ice cream, and it has popcorn and a lot of other little treats. Over here is the Barbecue Barn, which, as you might expect, has barbecued food and really good macaroni and cheese. Hey, folks. And this is also the area where every day, a few times a day, they have a Western show. So they have cowboys shooting it out, and it's something that the kids love watching. So another entertaining thing for families to do together. So if you are in the Niagara Falls region of New York, it is definitely worth a stop at Niagara Amusement Park and Splash World. We didn't even talk about the water park that's on the far side, and that's a really popular spot as well. I love this place, and I'm so glad that they're bringing it back because it was for so many years one of my favorite parks. And Gene Staples and their crew and Dana, they're all doing a phenomenal job, making this once again a premier family destination in the upstate New York region.